Today's guest is Cindy Gallop, entrepreneur, advertising consultant, and coach, renowned for her outspoken advocacy for authenticity in life and relationships. As the founder of the unique adult media platform Make Love Not Porn, she's revolutionized how we think about sex and relationships by challenging many of the outdated societal norms. From her highly successful career in advertising to her fearless rejection of traditional expectations, Cindy demonstrates how embracing your own sense of individuality can lead to a unique and fulfilling way of life. In this episode, we dive into Cindy's unique approach to dating and life.
I'm interviewed a lot, okay? This lovely woman said to me, do you have a daily self-care practice? And I went, oh yeah, no, I absolutely have a daily self-care practice. My daily self-care practice is, I have no husband, I have no children. Oh my God.
We speak about Cindy's new adult media platform and its positive and powerful mission.
But kind of what Facebook would be if it allowed you to openly, healthily, sexually self-express, which it clearly doesn't. If porn is the Hollywood blockbuster movie, Make Love Not Porn is the badly needed documentary.
And we touch on Cindy's advice for parents navigating 21st century challenges.
The average age at which a child stumbles across porn first sees it is 6 years old.
6 years old?
And that survey was done 11 years ago.
Before we get into it, I just want to mention something interesting that we've noticed recently. About 92% of the people watching these videos aren't subscribed yet. Now, no pressure at all. But if you're enjoying the content, subscribing is a super simple way to stay connected with us. And it also helps us out a ton when growing the channel. It's free, just takes a second, and is hugely helpful. Either way, I appreciate you being here. So thanks for watching, and let's get into it. There is a very famous quote that Jeffrey Bezos uses around brands, where he says, your brand is not what you say it is, it's what everyone else says it is when you've left the room. But I know that you are very self-aware. So you know what your brand is. What is Cindy Gallop's brand?
Do you know, Paul, I appreciate your thinking that, but honestly, I actually concur with that quote, because one of the interview questions I've had quite regularly in the past is a very standard one where people go, so Cindy, what 3 words would you use to sum yourself up? And my response is always, ask other people.
Yes.
Because actually, your brand is, in the same way, my background is obviously, marketing, advertising, brand building. You can absolutely put a lot of work into your brand, but at the end of the day, it's absolutely true. Your brand is what other people think and feel and say it is. And that's the essence of marketing. You put a lot of thought and effort into absolutely getting people to think, feel, and respond the way you want them to. And you've succeeded if they do. But at the end of the day, it's absolutely about what they think.
Okay. Can I tell you what other people think of you?
By all means.
So I have done some extensive research on this.
Right.
And there are 3 words I would say sum you up. Bold, fearless, unapologetic. This is what comes across in what I read, what I see, what I decipher. Are you proud of those 3?
Do you know, I'm proud of those 3, but what I think is interesting about that, Paul, is I would never describe myself using any of those words.
Interesting.
Because as far as I'm concerned, all I'm doing is being me. And the very fact that other people think that is bold, fearless, and unapologetic is more of an indictment of how much we are not encouraged to be any of those things in general that I come across as being those. Does that make sense?
It does. It does. Completely. And here's what I would love to know and really dig deep on is, at what point in your background, or what about your background, should I say, has allowed you to live so authentically? Because to your point, we are living in a society where we are on this conveyor belt, where we are replicas of each other, where we're very scared to talk about what our true feelings and opinions are. So what about your background has allowed you to be in this place of living your true authenticity?
Honestly, I really think it's been an organic process, and I've been very fortunate in that that is the case, because I didn't start out like this. It's a fact of life that, you know, from the moment we're born as women, everything around us conspires to make us feel insecure about absolutely everything to do with ourselves. The way we look, the way we talk, the way we dress. You know, nice girls do this, nice girls don't do that. As women, we spend our lives coming back from that, and a lot of women never do, unfortunately. And in my case, I'm half English, half Malaysian Chinese. And when I was 6, I was born in the UK. When I was 6, we moved to Brunei in Borneo when my father had a job. So I grew up in Asia, which also has very specific ideas of what women should be doing and focused on. So, I absolutely, in my teens, early 20s, was as subject to insecurity as anybody else. And I honestly think it was just a gradual process of living and learning that eventually got me to the point where, and this wasn't a moment of realization, but I basically went, I do not give a damn what anybody else thinks. And I now spend my life trying to shortcut that process for other women, because honestly, that is the only way to live. Fear of what other people will think is the single most paralyzing dynamic in business and in life. You will never own your own future if you care what other people think.
So how do we get to this place? Because you said it was a gradual process.
Mm.
It wasn't methodical for you.
Mm.
How did you get to that place?
First of all, when you identify your personal beliefs and values, that makes life so much simpler. Life still throws you all the shit it always will, but you know exactly how to respond to that shit in any given situation in a way that is true to you. And honestly, that is the secret of happiness. Living your life and working your work in a way that is always true to your values. But also, when you know what your values are, when you are absolutely living by them, that is why you don't give a damn what anybody else thinks. And honestly, that's it. It's that simple. But that is the key to having the confidence to go, I don't care what anyone else thinks.
It's an area where I think this is where I'm great at faking it. I think I'm great at walking around presenting ultra confident and that I don't care. But I still care. You know what I mean? It's like I don't want to care, but I care. So
Yeah, but, and by the way, I think it's very easy to be susceptible to that in our culture and our society. And, honestly, I cannot tell you how liberating it is to not give a shit about any of that. I was, someone was talking to me the other day because they wanted to film me for a documentary. And they were going, so, Cindy, maybe, we could film you taking walks around the park outside to de-stress. And I was going, well, I don't do that because I'm not stressed. They were going, maybe we could film you putting on your makeup. I went, I don't wear makeup. I don't give a shit what I look like. So wasn't giving them a lot to work with there. But you really need to just actively remove that from your brain and your mindset as an influence. Because the irony is, when you don't give a damn what anybody else thinks, people find you enormously attractive and desirable and a role model. It's what makes you wonder why more people don't kind of embrace that themselves.
yes, and I think it's these societal norms,
Yeah.
right? That we're just susceptible to.
Mm.
So, what do you believe are some of the more damaging societal norms that still exist?
Well, I'm going to give you a very subjective answer to this, Paul, because, like you, I'm interviewed a lot, okay? And so some time back, I was being interviewed for a podcast where the host, lovely woman, said to me, and it was all about the stress of entrepreneurship. So, Cindy, do you have a daily self-care practice that enables you to kind of deal with all of that? And I went, oh, yeah. No, I absolutely have a daily self-care practice. My daily self-care practice is I have no husband, I have no children.
Oh my God.
Oh, my God. I am not stressed in that sense every single day. The pressure to live conventionally in ways that absolutely start with, from the moment you are again, born as a baby girl, you are sold this bill of goods, which is that your entire life is a search for the one.
Mm.
And everything tells you that. Your family, your parents, popular culture, the movies you watch, the Disney princess cartoons,
Yes.
And so, I absolutely was susceptible to that as to anybody else. What that means as a young woman, in your teens, in your 20s, every social event you go to, will he be there? Okay. So first of all, that means you spend hours on makeup, outfits, you worry about what you look. Then you go to the social event, and this thing of will he be there is a dynamic that forces you to compete with other women, and that's a dynamic that I deplore. Then, he wasn't there. At the end of the night, you trudge home going, he wasn't there tonight, maybe next time. Okay, so at some point in my early 30s, am I allowed to swear on this show?
You absolutely can.
Right. Okay, I went, fuck this for a game of soldiers. I'm not looking for the one anymore.
In your early 30s.
In my early 30s, okay? And by the way, I was having a very good time in my 20s, but in the back of my head was vaguely, I always knew I didn't want children, by the way, but in the back of my head was always, somewhere out there, your soulmate, whatever. Anyway, in my early 30s, I just went, sod this, not looking for the one anymore. Oh my God, the instant relief. I could just go to social engagements and enjoy myself. I realized I did not want a husband or, a life partner. I then realized that I'm not a relationship person. I am that very rare person who has absolutely no desire to be in love whatsoever. And by the way, when you realize that you do not want to be in love, oh my God, that just strips a whole layer of bullshit out of your life immediately.
Wow. Okay, can we unpack this stuff?
Yeah.
This is because this is definitely rejecting a societal norm right now. Because you're right. Because society has structured itself so that we all are looking for the nuclear family. So you're definitely looking for at least not just a marriage partner, but a committed partner. But at minimum, in love. We should all be in love. But you threw that idea out the window. Now, do you believe that you have ever been in romantic love in your life?
Do you know, Paul, I would say that there were times when I thought I had, but honestly, it was infatuation or wanting to be in love because everything around you tells you that you should. And the fact of the matter is that, there are people who are just simply much happier on their own, don't need any of that. And I was lucky enough to realize that. But there are a ton of people out there who would be way happier operating the way I do who have no idea. Because all of these cultural dynamics mean that people live life in oiled grooves. You live your life according to what your parents told you should want, what all your friends are doing at the same time, what, as I said, every movie, popular song, TV series tells you should be what you strive for. And I just want people to, get all of that out of their heads and just simply, again, look within themselves and go, what would really make me happy? Because if you asked yourself that question brutally honestly, and you really stripped all of those considerations out of your head, I think that we would have many more women and also men, all genders, going, actually, I don't really want what the world is telling me I ought to want.
Okay. Does that mean that you are no longer open to the possibility of love entering your life?
Yeah, no, I'm not. I actually don't want it to.
You don't want it to.
No.
You close the door on it.
Oh, yeah, but Paul, I need to caveat this, okay, with the fact that I have lovely relationships in my life, but they're not relationships of the kind that people think about conventionally.
Okay.
So I date younger men because this is the perfect solution in my scenario. Okay, I date them casually and recreationally for sex. Okay, but no matter how casual the relationship, I have one fundamental criterion. They have to be a very nice person. I have fantastic radar for very nice people. I only date utterly lovely younger men in an atmosphere of mutual trust, respect, affection, and liking, and therefore my so-called casual relationships actually, ironically, go on a lot longer than most people's so-called committed ones. Because, I have dated younger men off and on for periods of 2, 3, 4, 5, 10, 15 years. What I mean by that is, we may date for a while. They may go on to date women their own age. They may marry women their own age. We like each other. We stay friends. Okay, we'll meet platonically for drinks or coffee. Every so often, those relationships end. Every so often, those marriages end. They come back. It's very nice.
It's interesting. Just listening to that, you've rejected several norms within that because is that so you're dating casually. When you say dating casually, there's sex happening, but you're doing other activities. I would imagine.
One thing that does infuriate me, and this is why I'm very public about my dating model, is that in our society, older man, younger woman, no one bats an eyelid.
Right.
Okay? Somehow, older woman, younger man, less socially acceptable. Okay? So, I meet the younger men I date on cougar dating sites.
Okay.
I applaud the rise of the niche dating site where everyone knows why they're there. But even I, who champion this relationship model, am gobsmacked by the number of younger men on those sites who want to date older women. And by the way, I use the term date as in they don't just want to have sex with older women, they want to date older women. There are many more younger men out there who genuinely appreciate or attract older women than society thinks because they are not allowed to express that openly. So I've dated the spectrum from I date younger men who are very happy to go out with me in public, be seen with me in public, correct the waiter when he thinks they're my son, okay? But equally, I've dated younger men who are terrified their friends and family will find out they're attracted to older women who want to keep it very discreet. I mean, I'm cool either way. Over the years, my friends have met a number of the younger men I've dated. They've come to stay with me for weekends at friends' houses, stuff like that. But equally, I've dated younger men my friends have never met because they don't want to be that public about it. And I'm absolutely fine with respecting their wishes either.
So my wife and I had a matchmaking agency in the U.S. For about a decade.
Wow, right.
Yeah, we grew up to one of the largest matchmaking agencies in the U.S. And what I've found over the last, I'd say maybe 15 years is, to your point, is there's this massive trend towards men wanting to date older. But the reason for it has changed. 15, 20 years ago, it was a lot of casual, i.e. sex. Today, what you're seeing is there's more desirability around older women are more confident. Older women are more self-aware. Older women actually have more disposable income. For all of these reasons, you're seeing that men are more open to it. And I think that society, the structure, it's prehistoric. However, there is more acceptance to it today. And I think with people like you talking about this openly, hopefully there will even be more. What I'm curious more so is actually not about the age difference. And when you say younger men too, is how much younger are you dating?
The biggest age gap was 34 years.
34
They tend to be in their 20s, although obviously over time a number of them are now older than that. But
Okay. And you are how old?
64.
So you're 64 and you still date men in their 20s.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, men in their 20s, 64, you are having physical relationship with them. You're having an emotional relationship with them.
Of our own special kind, not the standard way people think about emotional relationships.
Okay. But when help me understand that.
Okay, so first of all, Paul, I do want to just explain that everything in my life and career has happened by accident, okay? So dating younger men happened by accident because I did not consciously intentionally set out to date younger men, okay? What happened was many years ago, I was running an ad agency in New York, and we were asked to pitch for an online dating brand that was coming out of the UK and wanted to launch in the US. And in the advertising industry, when you pitch for a client's account, you have to experience the client's product and the entire competitive landscape. So we all had, at the agency, the pitch team, we all had to online date. And this was 22 years ago, okay?
Yeah.
And so none of us ever had. Because 22 years ago, online dating was not the thing it is today. It was just emerging as a sector. So the rest of my pitch team at the agency, they were all already married, living with, dating somebody. They all went online as fake personas. They created false profiles, whatever. I was single. I thought, okay, I have to do this for business reasons. Why not do it for real? Why not find out what this whole online dating thing is all about? So I posted my profile on our client site across a whole bunch of other sites. I got an avalanche of responses, which was very good for my ego. But much to my surprise, because I had not identified this as a dating strategy, 75% of those responses were from younger men, and the majority of them were from much younger men. And I suddenly realized that I was every young guy's fantasy. I was an attractive older woman, high-flying career, didn't want to settle down, did not want to get married, did not want to have kids. All I wanted to do was have some fun, which at the time, I just started an advertising agency in the world's toughest advertising marketplace, Madison Avenue. I was working 24/7. Fun was not present in my life. So I went, wow, hadn't thought about doing this. Works for me. And I've been dating younger men very happily ever since.
This is interesting. So it was happenstance.
Yeah, totally.
And you enjoyed it, and you're respectful in it. But the place that I want to go to that I'm having a hard time connecting is that if you have if you're physically intimate, you're emotionally intimate, and there's a level of trust there, which it sounds like there must be, then aren't those all of the ingredients for love?
No, they're not. No, they're absolutely not. So I have lovely, lovely relationships with young men I date. And as I say, I am still friends with so many of them, even after they've gone on to, get married, have children, etc. And actually, by the way, it's amazing how many of them come back. Just this past year alone, I've been messaged by 4 different younger men that I dated many years ago, putting their hand up for another shot. And actually, as far as I'm concerned, the moment has passed in all cases. I mean, there are others with whom the moment hasn't passed, but these have. But separate to that, I think it was last year, one of the younger men I dated, whom I haven't seen for a while, he messaged me on LinkedIn. He said, I just want you to know how enormously helpful you've been to me in framing the way I see the world. You gave me so much great advice. I just want to pay tribute to all of that you did for me. Another one, whom again I've known for years, who's now in a very happy relationship with a woman he's been seeing for the past 3 years. But he messaged me to say that he said, I consider you one of my closest friends. And so no, it's not love. It's mutual respect. It's mutual liking. It's a very specific fondness. And absolutely, there are still young men I'm seeing where the sexual attraction is very much there, and that happens when we see each other. But no, it's not love in the conventional sense. And I really encourage people to think much more multidimensionally about what love can be in the broadest sense, and what kind of relationship we can have with someone that doesn't fall into conventional parameters. Because again, Paul, I think the reason for unhappiness in a lot of relationships is that people have expectations of how things should go.
Right.
And then when those expectations are not delivered against, it's traumatic or upsetting or whatever. I have 0 expectations, and therefore everything that happens is extremely pleasant.
It's like it's all up. It's all up.
Exactly.
Oh my God. This is good. This is good. I'm learning. All right. So that is 2 norms, really, I think, that you're rejecting there. But you've also mentioned in there that you never wanted to have children.
It's not even that I don't feel, I've missed out on anything. I am ecstatic I have no children. Okay, and again,
I believe this.
yeah, and I'm really public about this because, so many people have children who would have been a lot happier not having them. And obviously we're talking about the ultimate taboo. And so it's only when surveys allow parents to be anonymous that they will be honest about this. But again, that is something I would really, really love people to stop and think about. Versus, again, as I said, the oiled grooves of what you do is, you fall in love, then you get married, then you have kids. And by the way, just going back to that falling in love thing, honestly, so often that is temporary infatuation, and several years later going, what was I thinking? But so many people get married in that temporary infatuation.
Yes.
And then what was I thinking when it arrives, as it will. has much more serious consequences.
Yes. And even on that note, too, is this whole notion of soulmate is, I've never believed in soulmates. At least in the thought of that you find the soulmate. I think that you create one, but you don't find.
Yeah.
And it's very
And
dangerous to
no,
think that there is
absolutely.
the
Yeah.
one out
Yeah.
there.
Yeah.
Do you ever think, do you think that's going to change in society? Because it feels like so much of society is built on these nuclear families, which therefore is built on finding the one. Do you see that changing?
Absolutely, Paul. But I see that changing when we finally fund, support, commission, enable the female lens on everything in popular culture, in the workplace, and in society generally. Because we live in a world where the default setting is always male. And by the way, I say to men all the time, men, you have no idea how much happier you would be living and working in a world that was equally design, influence, led by all of us. But honestly, in a patriarchal society, which is what we live in, women are absolutely being sold a bill of goods because that is what keeps us down. I mean, look at the trad wife movement, which is absolutely the ultimate expression of, a woman belongs in the kitchen, barefoot, pregnant, having as many babies as possible. And, people like Elon Musk are absolutely perpetuating that while totally not parenting the vast numbers of children that he's, fathered himself.
You said it.
Yep. When women have the opportunity to tell our stories, express ourselves, and to do so, very importantly, again, in popular culture, in movies, in TV, in songs, actually, in music, then we have many more different models of being that will make, as I said, men happier. Because, then it's not all about, well, your job as a man is to be the breadwinner. You've got to have a good job. You've got to have a certain, position whereby you can support it. I mean, when we change all of that because we as women do not want to fit neatly into that particular happy ever after fairy tale, then we change everything for everyone.
Yeah, I see it. I've seen studies around, female-led ecosystems, how the satisfaction levels are always much higher with a female-led ecosystem. So you think, gosh, society, it makes sense. It makes sense. But will we get there? That's going to be the question. One last question on the one is, why is this notion of the one so dangerous?
Honestly, first of all, Paul, it's incredibly time consuming. Okay. So I find that deciding that I actually don't want to be in love is so time efficient. Okay. Whether it is reading women's magazine, there's this big long feature on like relationships, not interested. I can skip so much crap in popular culture because I'm not. Okay.
This is such a good point. You're right.
Yeah, I'm not buying all those books about how to find love.
So you haven't read my book, clearly.
No, I'm afraid not. But honestly, I mean, it just frees up so much time.
Yeah.
Also, per my point earlier, not having to spend so much time on makeup and outfits and looking seductive and constructing a social media persona that honestly, it just saves so much time.
Yes.
Basically.
It is efficient.
It's very efficient.
It is efficient. Okay. And then also, too, is I have to do this because, I think that there are a lot of women watching, listening, thinking, I wouldn't mind getting into a relationship with a younger man. This sounds good to me, right? What advice do you have for them? How do you go about doing it, right? Because you do it with a lot of bravado. But how do you successfully have a relationship? Because you're having relationships. How do you successfully have a relationship with a younger man?
First of all, the most important thing for any older woman to know is that younger men think we're absolutely bloody wonderful. Okay, I have never been called beautiful as often as since I began dating younger men. Okay, because older women make the mistake of feeling insecure about their bodies, and absolutely not. I mean, younger men are so grateful to be there that they just think we're the hottest thing out. And by the way, Paul, this is actually a fundamental human truth that applies to everybody. And it's the one that Make Love Not Porn showcases, which is, what people are attracted to is you, and then your body is hot as hell because it's yours. It's not the other way around. I have dated some incredibly conventionally attractive younger men. So I remember years ago, I was dating a younger man here in London whenever I came over on business, who was 6'3", model good looking, okay, half Romanian, half Croatian, been on the Romanian national swimming team, body like, you can imagine. Yeah, exactly. And he genuinely, he was in his 20s at the time, early 20s. He genuinely loved, appreciated, was very attracted to older women. So he told me that, and he was very puzzled by this because he told me that here in London, he would be in a bar restaurant, he'd see an older woman, he'd sort of, go up to her and try and chat her up, and she would always reject him. And I said to him, and this guy is absolutely drop dead gorgeous, and I said to him, that's because she thinks you're pranking her.
Mm.
She thinks someone who looks like you cannot possibly be attracted to her. And so I want to say to older women, you would be so wrong. And it's really important to understand that before you even embark on, dating younger men. What's interesting, Paul, is to be perfectly frank, I think people who want to find a soulmate would benefit from adopting my approach to finding casual sex. Okay? So first of all, as I said, I meet the younger men I date on cougar dating sites. So I recommend that older women go there. If you just Google, by the way, cougar dating site, you'll find a ton of them. You have to find the one that's right for you, But like I said, my number one criteria is must be a nice person. Now, when you are looking for your soulmate, you have a dating checklist where must be a nice person is not usually number one on the list, okay? Usually it's must have a good job, must have ambition and drive, must have a sense of humor, whatever. So if you're looking for your soulmate and you walk into that bar, that coffee shop, and you set eyes on that person you've been talking with online for the first time, you are not thinking, are they attracted to me? You are thinking, what would my friends think if I walked into a party with this on my arm? You are looking for socially endorsed attractiveness, whether you realize that or not. I'm not, because when I walk into that bar, all I'm thinking is, am I attracted to you? Because if I am, I'm taking you home and fucking you. But what that means is that I am devoid of any, gotta have, gotta be 6'2", gotta have, clean cut jaw, look like this, classical good looks or whatever. I don't give a shit what anybody else thinks of what he looks like. All that matters genuinely is this person attracted to me?
Cindy flips the typical dating checklist on its head. While most people look for things like status, ambition, or how someone will be perceived by others, she focuses on one thing. Am I genuinely attracted to this person? That's it. She doesn't care about societal standards or what anyone else might think. And honestly, I think there's a big lesson in that. When we stop prioritizing external validation and focus on what truly matters to us, we open ourselves up to real, authentic connections. It's a game changer.
So, if you're looking for a soulmate, one consideration at first IRL date, and this is especially the case for women, is did we both get equal airtime? Okay. Did he ask me as many questions about me as I asked about him? Did I get to talk about myself as much as he got to talk about himself? When I am meeting my younger men for that first IRL date at the end of the day, I've spent all day pitching Make Love Not Porn. I am sick to death of the sound of my own voice. I don't want airtime. The last thing I want to do is talk about myself. I want to hear all about him. And, with men in their 20s, he's probably never encountered anybody as interested in him as I am. Okay? And what then happens, Paul, is that I hear amazing stories. Because what I love about online dating is that you get to meet people you would never meet in your usual walk of life. So I've met with, because I don't date all of the men I meet, because not all of them make the cut, But, I've met younger men who are the very first person in their family ever to go to college. There's a whole story behind that. Younger men who are in their first jobs are supporting entire families. I've met younger men doing really dangerous jobs in the army, military intelligence, in Afghanistan, doing things that, for someone in their early 20s, I'm going, bloody hell,
Right.
what you were doing there. I just hear incredible stories because I just want to hear their story. I'm not focused on telling mine, and and those stories make them even more attractive to me because, I'm getting the whole person. And so, those are just a few of the principles whereby I may use this to find the younger men I want to date casually, but actually think about adopting my approach to find your life partner.
No, you know what? It makes sense. Because in essence, what you're saying is that when you use this approach, you're not seeking any type of external validation.
Exactly. Exactly.
And that makes it a win.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
like that.
Yeah.
This is the Cindy method.
Absolutely.
The Cindy method. All right. So we've talked about in terms of rejecting social
Mm.
norms. So we've talked about the one, children, about nuclear families. Because I keep going back to this concept because this is a concept that, according to all of my research, this is the Western church that really made this in vogue, right? But it feels like townships were created as a result of nuclear families. So society now moves off of this concept of the nuclear family. So what's your opinion on that? Is that a norm that is damaging today?
Um, I think it is. I talk very publicly about my approach because we need many more role models that demonstrate you can live life very differently to the way expected to. I cannot wait to die alone, and I date younger men casually recreational sex. Now, when I say I cannot wait to die alone, okay, I'm doing that lightheartedly to land a point, but also because actually I'm not going to die alone. And what I mean by that, and sorry, this is a long-winded answer to your question, is, I'm very, very lucky in that I have a wonderful family. I'm the oldest of 4 sisters. We are all incredibly close. My mother's still alive at the age of 91. And we have family, all, my cousins, my nephews, my nieces. I'm never going to die alone because I have a wonderful family around me. I have amazing friends. And that chosen family is absolutely as valid, as loving, as wonderful, as life affirming as any kind of nuclear family that you create according to the cultural narrative. You do have the family you didn't choose, and unfortunately for some people that does not work out well. But you can also have the family that you choose. And I'd love people to expand the concept of family to bring in the people that you will meet along the way who absolutely are your family.
Yeah, I agree with that. I often say not all family is family. And that's exactly what I'm referring to is that I found that some of my closest friends are family. So then what does that mean of my relationship? It means that I love them.
Yeah,
And,
yeah, absolutely.
so to your
Yeah.
point, well said, well said. All right. Any other, because I feel like you are a rebel in this world, right? So you're rejecting all these norms. Any other norms that you reject? Because I feel like that those are the big ones.
I will tell you one that I feel particularly strongly about. Marketers believe that older people aspire to be young. We don't. Young people aspire to be us. I coach people in their 50s who believe that life is now for them a trajectory downwards. And it is so not. I always remember many years ago, I was consulting on retainer for the Japanese ad agency Hakuhodo. And so I used to go to Tokyo and spend weeks there at a time working with Hakuhodo. And so one week I was there and I went out to dinner with my Japanese colleagues. We went to a sushi restaurant. We all got tanked on sake. It was very jolly. And one of the Japanese colleagues, a woman, revealed that in her youth, she had been apprenticed to a very famous Japanese fortune teller, soothsayer kind of figure. And he had taught her to read palms. And it was quite a short apprentice, six months or so apprenticeship. And so she'd only learned to read palms in a very limited way. She would tell you your love life, your career, your health. I think that was about it. So anyway, so we're all drunk and sake. We're all going round here. So she read all our palms, and obviously with everyone else, she read them in Japanese, but she had to read mine in English. And English wasn't very good, which is part of the charm of this. And I remember she looked at my palm and she said to me, "You are only halfway." And I was 49 at the time, and that was exactly how I felt. I was only halfway. And so I say to the people I coach, you have as long to live again, especially given the miracles of modern science and medicine, as you've lived to date. What are you going to do with that? And equally to marketers, I go, our core target is young people and the older people will follow. No, 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 no. Start with older people, lead with older people, the young will follow. Because at this age, as we've been discussing, at this age, we don't give a shit about anything, okay? We have our own sense of personal style, home style. We know what really matters in life, relationships, friendships. We have freedom to travel. We have more disposable income. All of that is enormously aspirational for younger people.
When I asked Cindy about norms she rejects, she dropped a powerful truth. Society has it all wrong about aging. Older people aren't trying to be young. If anything, young people should be looking up to the wisdom, freedom, and confidence that comes with age. She calls for a shift in mindset, especially in marketing, to make older people the aspiration. Her point? Life at 50 isn't the end. It's often just the halfway mark.
What society is failing to do is flip that equation and understand that older people are aspirational and that we should be telling these stories, holding them up as aspirational, leading with them in every possible sense. I mean, for commercial value as well as for cultural entertainment value.
I just slow. That's how you know a clap is good. It starts slow, and then it just, there's so much I can say on that.
But I'll just say this is that, so being in television for over a decade, what I've noticed is this exact argument, the counter argument, right? Which is, well, we advertise, the advertisers want the millennials or they want now it's Gen Zs. It's 18 to 25 because they have large disposable income and therefore all of our programming begins to target them, which means that when you're casting, for example, you have contributors on these shows, the contributors are all Gen Z so that they can better relate to the, I think this is ridiculous.
No, exactly. And especially because, I was interviewed a couple of years ago for Style Like You's What's Underneath interview series. Lovely mother and daughter duo, Elisa and Lily. They have this interview series where they ask the interviewee to sit on a stool. They ask a question from behind the camera. As you answer each question, you remove an item of clothing. The idea being that you metaphorically and literally strip down to what's underneath.
Okay.
So they asked me to do this for a series with older people, which I happily did. So I sat on the stool at the age of 62, 2 years ago. I took all my clothes off down to my underwear while I talked about how I like to live my life. I was blown away by the response to that. I went viral on TikTok. Okay, I wasn't even on TikTok at the time, by the way. The clips of that interview have millions of views, thousands of comments. Same thing on YouTube, on Instagram. And there are so many young people, and a lot of young women, also young men, going, all my life, I've been looking for an older female role model like this. Phenomenal comments. And in fact, I was especially moved by one under the Instagram clip, which said, it was from a woman. It said, imagine if we had grown up seeing and hearing women live and talk like this. Imagine how different our lives will be now. Like I said, we are aspirational to younger people. Oh my God, tap into that. And you unlock a whole world of, as I said, commercial value, let alone enormous cultural and entertainment value. And very importantly, Paul, so I coined the hashtag live older because that was a direct response to the Evian tagline of live young, sod that. But also, I coined another hashtag, and this is another message I've been putting out for years. So I believe the opposite of what most people tend to say when they think they are countering ageism, which is age is just a number. It's not. Your age is a very special number because your age is the sum total of you. Your age is the sum total of all of your lived experience to date, all of your expertise, everything you've grown up absorbing and learning and doing. Your age is what makes you valuable. Your age is the sum total of the value that you bring. And so I coined the hashtag say your age because I say my age as often as possible. I shout it from the rooftops and I want to encourage everybody else to do the same.
Yes. I wish I had a collection plate. I could just pass it around the studio because everything you're saying, this is gospel. This is gospel. It's the eternal struggle most of us face, building a fulfilling, successful career, but also being an available partner, parent, and friend. It never lets up and sometimes compounds to an overwhelming feeling of being stretched too thin. But there are ways to ease the load, and today I want to introduce you to one of them, who is also a sponsor of this podcast. Fiverr is the marketplace where you'll find thousands of highly skilled freelancers ready to take on your business needs. From graphic design to digital marketing, Fiverr is your one-stop shop. Here, you can browse talent portfolios until you find one whose work and skills and budget aligns with yours. What's even better is Fiverr's new AI tool, Neo, which streamlines the process of matching talent and briefing them in. Free up some of your time in life. Head to fiverr.com, that's Fiverr.com, or click the link in the description and use code PAUL, that's PAUL, at checkout for 10% off your first order. When it comes to love, we're all on our own journey. And that means any advice we're given should be tailored to our love goals, not someone else's. This is where my show and Tinder, who sponsor this podcast, have teamed up to help you. Each week on We Need to Talk, I'll explore love and relationships through a different lens, so you can get the advice that relates to your romantic situation. Tinder is for all types of relationships, and I truly believe it has the best tools to help you form the connections you're looking for. That might be long-term commitment or short-term experiences. Maybe it's friendship. But regardless of which part of the journey you're on, Tinder and I are here to support you. Their app is full of possibilities, and it's designed to help you explore every kind of connection. It starts with a swipe, so download Tinder today. Now, Cindy, I see, even though I know how you feel about children, I see that you do have a baby. Did you know about this baby?
This is news, Paul. Where's this baby?
No. Your baby is clearly
Oh,
Make love, not
my
porn.
goodness, absolutely.
Yes.
No, you're right. But, right, Paul, because that is my child. That is my legacy. Actually, that is what I want to leave to the world. See,
Yes.
you're absolutely right. You're absolutely right.
So,
Yep.
can we begin with the story of how do you create a company called Make Love, Not Porn?
And the answer is by complete and total accident.
This is your life. You need to write a book by complete and total accident.
It absolutely is. Because my ex-boss in the advertising world, the wonderful Sir John Hegarty of BBH, has this great mantra. John says, do interesting things and interesting things will happen to you. And that's very much how I've lived my life. So, I began accidentally dating younger men. And dating younger men is what led me to accidentally start Make Love Not Porn. Because, 16, 17 years ago, I began realizing through dating younger men that I was encountering an issue that would never have crossed my mind if I had not encountered it very intimately and personally.
Okay.
I realized that I was experiencing what happens when two things converge. And I stress the dual convergence because most people think it's only one thing. I realized that I was experiencing what happens when today's total freedom of access to hardcore porn online meets our society's equally total reluctance to talk openly and honestly about sex. It's when those two factors converge that porn becomes sex education by default in not a good way. So I found myself encountering a number of sexual behavioral memes in bed. I went, well, I know where that behavior is coming from. I thought, gosh, if I'm experiencing this, other people must be as well. I didn't know that because 16 years ago, no one was talking about this. No one was writing about it. This was me in isolation as a naturally action-oriented person going, well, I'm going to do something about this. So,
And I'm curious, what were you seeing in the bedroom that was alarming to you?
This was, I put all of this into Make Love Not Porn's original incarnation because what I did, and I'll tell you, so 15 years ago, I put up this tiny clunky website at makelovenotporn.com on no money that was kind of a public service announcement. Okay, porn world versus real world. Here's what happens in the porn world. Here's what really happens in the real world. And every one of those porn world versus real world incidents happened to me. Okay, so porn world, women have no hair down there. Okay.
Right.
Real world, actually, Some women like to shave and wax everything, some women don't. Equally, some men, like we know natural, some don't. It's very much a matter of personal taste. That is not the way it has to be. Okay. Porn world. All men love coloring women's faces. All men love having their faces colored. Okay. Real world. Some people like this, some people don't. Good idea to find out before you spring it on them suddenly. But very much in that vein, things like porn world, it's all about the camera angles. And so, the bodies are adapting to that. Real world, skin on skin. Get really close. It's an amazing feeling. You're not going to see that in porn because it's all about get the camera in really close, and, et cetera, et cetera. I launched Make Love Not Porn at the TED conference in 2009. I became the only TED speaker to say the words "come on my face" on the TED stage 6 times in succession. The talk went viral as a result of that. And it drove this extraordinary global response to my tiny website that I had never anticipated. Thousands of people wrote to me from all around the world, young and old, male and female, straight and queer, pouring their hearts out, telling me things about their sex lives and their porn watching habits they'd never told anyone before. And I realized I'd uncovered a huge global social issue. And so that was when I went, oh my God, I now have a personal responsibility. I have to take Make Love Not Porn forwards in a way that will make it much more far-reaching, helpful, and effective. And so I turned it into a business designed to do good and make money simultaneously, which is what I want the future of all business to be ultimately. And what I decided to do was, I've said for 15 years, the issue isn't porn, the issue is that we don't talk about sex in the real world. Because if we did, people could then bring a real-world mindset to the viewing of what is simply performative, produced, manufactured entertainment. And so I went, okay, I need to take this forward in a way that will make it easier for everybody in the world to talk openly and honestly about sex. And so I decided very simply to take every dynamic in social media and apply them to this one area of universal human experience that no other social network platform allows. And so I turned Make Love Not Porn into what we are today, which is the world's first and only user-generated and, importantly, 100% human-curated social sex video sharing platform. So we're kind of what Facebook would be if it allowed you to openly, healthily, sexually self-express, which it clearly doesn't. The way to think about us is, if porn is the Hollywood blockbuster movie, Make Love Not Porn is the badly needed documentary. We are a unique window onto the funny, messy, loving, wonderful sex we all have in the real world. We are socializing, normalizing, and destigmatizing sex, bringing it out of the shadows into the sunlight to promote consent, communication, good sexual values and behavior. We are literally sex education through real-world demonstration.
Now, you would also be David versus Goliath here, because when I look at some of these stats around the pornography as an industry, they're mind-blowing, right? 58% of adults have watched porn at least once in their life. 11% watch porn daily. 30,000 people watch porn every second. The global porn industry is worth over $97 billion annually. That is larger than the economy of Portugal. And it seems to me that what you're doing is you're combating the industry in essence.
Do you know? Not really, Paul,
Interesting.
actually. So the reason I use the movie versus documentary analogy is because Make Love Not Porn is not a competitor to porn. We are the only real-world counterpoint and complement. People like watching movies, people like watching documentaries. Sometimes move for movies, sometimes they move for documentary. But it's really important to have the documentary so that people know the movie is not real. And that's the role that we fulfill that nobody else ever had. What I'm doing is something, actually, to be frank, even bigger than porn, which is, I'm pioneering what I call the social sex revolution. The revolutionary part is not the sex, it's the fact we're finally making it social. Do you know, those stats you just quoted are understating the value of what we currently call porn and what I'm broadening into. mainstreaming adult content, okay, because it's not all porn. The first area obviously is, oh my God, the money's made out of sex. We all have it, we all enjoy it, recession-proof, market never ever goes away.
Right.
But the second area is, oh my God, the money to be made out of socially acceptable sex. Because when you do what we're doing, take the shame, guilt, and embarrassment out of sex, socialize it, destigmatize it, you then normalize people being really willing to openly, publicly buy your products, goods, services, then publicly do what they do with everything else: recommend, share, advocate, badge themselves as brand ambassadors. And that's the $1 trillion financial future I'm going after, when you bring sex out of the shadows and into the sunlight. And that's a much bigger vision than relates to porn.
From porn. So where is the social sexual revolution that comes from Make Love, Not Porn?
So as a unique business, Make Love Not Porn has a unique capability. We have the power to change people's sexual attitudes and behavior for the better in a way that very few other things can. So for example, in the 11 years that we've been operating, we've discovered that we have been able to teach countless young people that porn is not sex in the real world. Gen Z loves us. We have saved numerous marriages and relationships, and that is literally how people write to us: you saved my marriage. Hadn't had sex in years, watch your videos together. We inspired communications breakthroughs, kaboom. Parents increasingly are buying their teenage 20-something children's subscriptions to Make Love Not Porn. They tell us, I want my kids to see what happy, healthy, loving sexual relationships actually look like. As with any disruptive technology, use cases emerge the founder never dreamt of. So I was blown away when we began hearing from survivors of rape, sexual assault, sexual abuse. We hear from female survivors, male, trans, non-binary survivors. They tell us that Make Love Not Porn helped them reclaim their bodies. We help them feel able to be sexual again post-trauma in a situation where porn is too triggering. And it's not just people who watch our videos. We have a number of our contributors, Make Love Not Porn stars, as we call them, who tell us being able to share themselves sexually in a completely safe and trustworthy space has enabled them to process and heal from sexual trauma. I never thought of that as a use case when I came up with this. I'm so happy it is. But here's something especially interesting, Paul, because I designed Make Love Not Porn to be fully diverse and inclusive, and we are. We're a global platform, so all races, ethnicities. Our members are Make Love Not Porn stars, range in age from 18 to 80. Male, female, trans, non-binary, straight, LGBTQ, asexual. But in the 11 years we've operated, we've discovered Make Love Not Porn is especially a revelation to men. More men send us grateful emails, leave appreciative comments to anybody else. By the way, women love us too, but this is especially noteworthy.
It's interesting.
Because we are something utterly unique that men will find nowhere else on the internet, which is a safe space where men can be and watch other men being open, emotional, and vulnerable around sex. You would not believe the number of men who write to us regularly and say, I just watched my first video, Make Love Not Porn, and afterwards I cried. I've said for years, I wish society understood the opposite of what it thinks is true. Women enjoy sex just as much as men, and men are just as romantic as women. Yet neither gender is allowed to openly celebrate either fact. We would all be so much better off if they were.
All right. Whether you agree with Cindy or not, her platform Make Love Not Porn is undeniably provocative. Cindy explains that it's shown Gen Z that porn is not real-life sex. It saved marriages and even helped survivors of sexual trauma reclaim intimacy in a safe space. Now, most strikingly, she says it's been a revelation for men, offering something they can't find anywhere else online, a place to be vulnerable, emotional, and open about sex. Cindy's vision challenges us to rethink intimacy and proves that when we remove shame, we open the door to deeper love and connection. This is not at all what you hear when you hear people talk about pornography, right? You hear these, I've read studies where pornography literally rewires the brain. And I don't know what your opinion is on that, but you hear this movement towards how damaging pornography could be. We had a guest on who I specifically asked about pornography, and she said, It's much better to have many casual relationships than it is to watch pornography. So what is your opinion on the rewiring of the brain and how your platform is different?
Sure. So first of all, Paul, I don't subscribe to the theory of porn addiction, which, by the way, is not a recognized, WHO thing. And I say that because for the past 15 years, I've had a front row seat to the enormous human misery and unhappiness caused by the shame, guilt, and embarrassment that we imbue sex with. Half the problem is the guilt. I remember years ago, a journalist was interviewing me about porn, and he said to me very earnestly, and this is an indication of how ridiculous we are as a society about this. He went, "So Cindy, why do you think we like to watch people having sex?" And I just burst out laughing. I rolled around the floor. I went, "Oh my God, we are all sexual beings. Of course we like to watch people having sex." My work absolutely sits at the intersection of sexual health and mental health. And mental health has been destigmatized a lot these days, still not fully. But people are not willing to look at how fucked up we are about sex impacts people's mental health, in that scenario as well. Now, very importantly, as our name suggests, Make Love Not Porn is not porn. As our tagline says, we are pro-sex, pro-porn, pro-knowing the difference. And so the revelation we bring is that we answer the question everyone has asked since the dawn of time, which is, what is everybody else really doing in bed? And now we show you. And that is the revelation. I picked up a wonderful Twitter exchange sometime back between two men. The first man had tweeted, as a joke, obviously, "Hey guys, got this really weird fetish. I've got this kink where I want to watch porn where people are honest, loving, loyal, decent, and really like each other. Hit me up with the hottest links, please." And another man replied and said, "There's this website called Make Love Not Porn where you can watch real couples making love." He said, "I watched a video where the woman said to her man, 'I love you,' while they're making love. He said, sincerely, I cried when I heard that." We are one of the solutions to toxic masculinity. And that's really important, Paul, because our mission is what nobody else's mission is. Okay, our mission at Make Love Not Porn is to help end rape culture globally. And that may sound like a very big mission, but we have 11 years of proof of concept at a micro level. We end rape culture by showing you how wonderful great consensual communicative sex is in the real world. We eroticize consent. One man left a comment saying, "This video makes me want to be a better man in the bedroom and in life." We can do that.
This is where your platform is substantially different than everything that I've seen that exists. Consent is a major issue as it relates to not just dating and relationships, but to your point, rape and sexual violence. So when you think about consent, first is how do you even define it? Because I hear it defined like 16 different ways now. How do you define consent? And then how is the platform, in particular, how's the platform helping to illustrate what consent looks like?
So I define consent, Paul, as starting way further back than the bedroom. So I regularly ask people this question: what are your sexual values? And nobody can ever answer me because we're not taught to think like that.
Mm-hmm.
Our parents bring us up to have good manners, a work ethic, sense of responsibility, accountability. Nobody ever brings us up to behave well in bed. But they should, because in bed, values like empathy, sensitivity, generosity, kindness, honesty, trust, respect are as important as those values are in every other area of our lives where we're actively taught to exercise them. So, for me, consent starts with inculcating, educating on good sexual values and good sexual behavior. And what's important about this is people say to me when I make this point, "Oh, but Cindy, if you have good values in life and those translate into the bedroom," no, they don't. Okay? Again, as you heard me say earlier, I'm very select about whom I date. I only date utterly lovely younger men with great values. And nevertheless, when we get into bed, I see them modeling the body language that says, "My dick is the center of the universe, and it's all about them." And that's because they have unconsciously internalized what male lens porn has taught them as sex education by default. Okay? So, At Make Love Not Porn, we are building a community around shared good sexual values and good sexual behavior. And we are very clear that that is what we stand for. That's what our content is all about. We attract people who want that, you know. And so when you are operating good sexual values and good sexual behavior, consent starts there, because you know when someone's not feeling it and you don't push it any further. So many people think consent means you get into the bedroom and you go, is it okay if I do this?
Right.
Is it okay if I do that? No wonder people say it kills the mood. Of course that will bloody kill the mood. But when you have good sexual values and you're living them, you don't have to do any of that, because you're not even in the bedroom unless both of you want to be there equally. Then, you know, to your point, everybody right now, quite rightly, is talking about consent. Everyone's writing about consent. Lots of thoughtful, nuanced, insightful think pieces about consent out there. Here's the problem. Nobody knows what consent actually looks like in bed, because the only way you educate people fully as to what is great consensual communicative sex is by watching people actually having that kind of sex. And Make Love Not Porn is the only place on the internet where you can do that.
Yeah.
You know, show people what consent actually looks like and how bloody hot, arousing, and sensational it is.
Yes, yes. So on that note too of demonstration, what is it about the demonstration that would, say, help a couple, and not just the couple viewing?
You are simply sharing a privileged glimpse into your real world sex life.
Okay.
The young white male founders of the giant tech platforms that dominate all our lives today, they are not the primary targets, online or offline, of harassment, abuse, sexual assault, racism, violence, rape, intimate image abuse. Therefore, they did not and they do not proactively design for the prevention of any of those things on their platforms. And we see the results of that around us every day. Those of us who are most at risk every day, women, Black people, people of colour, LGBTQ, people with disabilities, we design safe spaces and safe experiences, but we don't get funded. Only 1.7% of all venture capital last year went to female founders. And that is why we have still not seen what the future of the internet could be when it's designed and built through the female lens at scale. And I say that because I designed Make Love Not Porn through the female lens to be the safest place on the internet. And that's our power. There is no self-publishing of anything on Make Love Not Porn because I design it around 100% human curation. Our curators watch every frame of every video submitted from beginning to end before we approve or reject, and we publish it. No one else does that. We review every post on every member profile, every comment on every video before we approve or reject, and we publish that. No one else does that either. We can vouch for every single piece of content on our platform in a way that nobody else can. And by the way, we're tiny bootstrapping, have no money, we've human created everything for 11 years. Imagine what Facebook, Instagram, TikTok do with their billions they chose to. Safe on the internet is not a matter of our ability, it's a matter of will. We exist to celebrate the full glorious spectrum of human sexuality, but that is why the vast majority of our Make Love Not Porn stars had never filmed themselves doing anything sexual before ever. They are sharing their real-world sex lives with us for the first time anywhere because they trust us and they too want to create a more open, healthy attitude and dialogue around sex. And then that is also why we are transformative for the people watching our videos, because we are socializing all of this, normalizing it. Couples say to us, you know, watching your videos, we found it so easy to talk about what was happening in them. It's like watching Netflix or TV. And then it was a short step from talking about what we just watched to talking about our own sex life.
Yes.
And making that breakthrough accordingly.
Yes. So I went on to Make Love Not Porn.
Oh, excellent.
Yes.
Oh my God.
'Cause
Tell me. And by the way, feel free to be honest.
Yeah, I had to do my research.
Excellent.
I had to do my
Excellent.
research. And something that I've heard you talk about, and it was, I thought it was so refreshing that it was beautiful, and is that, you know, you saw real breast sizes,
Yes.
real penis sizes.
Yeah.
Like you and you know, and I think that's to your point of normalizing. This is so incredibly important.
No, oh my God, it is, because, you know, we exist, Paul, to show something that, you know, I can't believe people don't understand for themselves when it's all around them. And what I mean by that is, you know, we celebrate real world everything in a world where every message popular culture sends us tells us, you know, you are not hot, attractive unless you are this skinny, six-pack abs, look like this. You know, our members write to us and say, you made me feel better about my own body. Years ago, Love Island announced its newest season. You may remember this particular episode because they announced the casting, and the internet came down on their heads because everybody was, gorgeous and, non-body diverse
Yes.
and non-racially diverse. And the producer made the big mistake of, being publicly interviewed and going, well, we have to cast what people find attractive. Okay. And I was one of the many people who responded to that, with a tweet that actually the Daily Mail published, in fact, in an article about this, because I tweeted back at him and I went, walk through any park in any big city in the summertime, look at the couples holding hands, sitting on the grass, cuddling, kissing, and you will see what people really find attractive in the real world. And Paul, it's all around us, okay? On the tube, on the street, look at couples who are madly in love with each other in the real world. One woman left a comment in a video where we have larger Make Love Not Porn stars saying, it was so empowering to see a woman of my body size being sexual. Thank you so much. She said, all my life, I've been told my vulva's ugly. It's too flappy, it's too meaty, it's too big. She went, I don't agree. And so I thought, what the hell? I'm going to video myself. I'm going to share it on here. I'm going to see what you think. Our community is amazing. Video goes up in less than an hour. There's a stream of comments going, oh my God, you're gorgeous. What are they talking about? You're so beautiful. We want to see more. And so it is tremendously affirming for our Make Love Not Porn stars. Couples, by the way, tell us it transformed their relationship. Because when you decide to film yourselves having sex, you have to talk about it. When you talk about it, doesn't matter how long you've been together, the conversation goes places it's never ever gone before. Couples write and say, we thought we were open, but doing this just took our relationship to a whole new level.
Yes, absolutely. And I tell you what, there's a million different places I can go, but I know we've limited time. So the last place I'd like to go to is a continuum from this conversation. And I believe this is truly the legacy. And this is around the education piece and what you're building for the under 18s. What I love so much about these interviews is I have open dialogue with my wife and my two boys about the topics and the guests that are coming in. And there was one particular stat. Let me see if I can find it where this is around. Oh yeah, here it is. So I read these stats out loud, and then it initiated a conversation in my household. So this stat was that the average age of the first exposure to porn is 12 years old. 97% of girls and 100% of boys have viewed porn by the age of 15. By the age of 13, 50% of kids have been exposed to porn. So my son just turned 14. So I turned to him. I say, okay, have you seen pornography before? And what was interesting is he wasn't trying to be coy. He didn't know what it was. He didn't know how to define it. So I had to then start to define it for him. And what I realized is, not only had he seen pornography, but my 10-year-old had seen pornography. And I thought, okay, if I had the option between them being exposed to Make Love Not Porn or them being exposed to this video floating in WhatsApp that their friends sent them, which would I rather? Without question, I would want them to see Make Love Not Porn. So talk to me about the education piece, because I think this is critically important.
No, it absolutely is. And actually, Paul, I will tell you that I quote a Bitdefender survey of 19,000 parents done worldwide, which identified that the average age at which a child stumbles across porn, first sees it, is 6 years old.
6 years old?
And that survey was done 11 years ago. Okay, so honestly, those ages are higher than, when I first launched Make Love Not Porn, I got an email from a woman who said, my first exposure to porn was 8 years old and it was a gangbang. So children are stumbling across horrific things. And so that's why, literally from day one of Make Love Not Porn, parents and teachers began writing to me, as they have for 15 years, begging me for the 0 to 18 and beyond sex education expansion.
Yes.
There are two pieces of advice I've had to give to parents over the years. And I'm going to put these on Make Love Porn Academy so that everyone has access to them. The first one is, I say to parents, today, you cannot begin talking to your child about sex too early. When I say that, I don't mean literally talk about sex. What I mean is, the very first time your child asks where babies come from, plays with their genitals, the most important thing isn't even what you say as much as how you say it. Never ever get flustered, never get visibly embarrassed, never shut them up, change the topic, leave the room. Instead, answer your child calmly, straightforwardly, honestly, because by doing that, you will open up a channel of communication between the two of you that will be there for them for the rest of their lives. The one thing every parent wants is for their child to be happy. This area will impact your child's happiness more than almost anything else. And so you want to open up that channel where they can talk about sex to you at any point in their lives going forwards. Then the second thing I say to parents is, now, again today, sadly, when you talk to your child about sex, you must also at the same time talk to your child about porn. This is much easier to do than most parents think, because all you have to do is say a version, what I'm about to share with you, then you dial it up or down depending on the age of the child. So you go, so darling, we've just talked about sex. And you know how together we watch movies and videos and cartoons where things happen that aren't real. Well, there are also movies and videos about sex, and they're not real either. And because of that, they can be quite confusing. So we'd rather you watch until you're older. But if you ever come across anything like that, or somebody shows something like that to you, come and talk to us, come and talk to me, I can explain it. That's all you have to say. You can end the conversation right there, because just by saying that, you've done two very important things. The first is that you've set them in their minds for when they stumble across porn, as they will, it's not real. And the second thing you've said is, come and talk to me about it, because what they stumble across may be utterly traumatizing.
Yes. Very, very helpful.
That's it. So yeah, we are building makelovenotporn.academy. So our vision is laid out at that URL. And this is what I characterize as the Khan Academy of Sex Education. Because Khan Academy, the online tutoring platform, tutors on every other topic and some except this one.
Yes. Yes.
Educational technology, edtech, as a category exploding. Not in this area. So we're building Make Love Not Porn Academy on the same principles as Make Love Not Porn. We're inviting sex educators from all around the world to share with us their own content. Course materials, books, videos, comic strips, whatever it may be. And I use the term educator very broadly. Sexual health and wellness experts, therapists, health professionals, podcasters. Human eyes will vet every educator, every piece of content to make sure it's safe, we endorse it. We have a very broad filter. On Make Love Not Porn, our curatorial filter is simply, it's got to be legal, consensual, and real, then anything goes. For the Academy, it's got to be educational, fact-based, and non-judgmental.
Interesting.
And then everything goes. And we are then going to make all of this content searchable by age appropriateness. So if you're a parent freaking out going, oh my God, my 6-year-old just asked this, what do I say? We're going to give you the tools and content to be able to have that conversation with a 6-year-old. If you're a teacher of the class of 14-year-olds, here are age-appropriate teaching materials. If you're an adult, access all areas. Adults are just as desperate for this. But importantly, Paul, we are designing the Academy to be accessible by children and young people without parental teacher gatekeeping. And I'll tell you why that's important. I have a friend who's a mother, and as you have to these days, she monitors her kids' browsing history. This happened a few years ago. Her son was 8 years old, and she saw to her horror that on the family computer, he had Googled sex for children. So she freaked out, but did the right thing. Stayed calm, sat him down. Darling, I happen to see that you would talk me through why. And Paul, this anecdote is adorable and horrifying in equal measure because her son wanted to learn about sex. He was a child. He knew he was a child. He wanted to learn about sex in a child-appropriate way. He sweetly, innocently Googled sex for children. You can imagine what came back utterly traumatized. So the Academy would be when an 8-year-old boy can enter his age. We would only serve him age-appropriate sex education. And importantly, we'll also, you'll be able to search by cultural sensibility. We have Christian sex education, Jewish sex education, Muslim sex education. And equally importantly, because we are bringing all this together in one place, you pick and choose according to your comfort level. We are going backwards as a society because open, healthy sex is being censored, blocked, and deplatformed everywhere. My friends get their content blocked on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, their accounts suspended, they're banned from advertising. They can't even make a living doing this. I want to promote their work, help them sell their books and their courses and whatever, because this is enormously valuable work. And so I've said to my team, our aim with the Academy is to help organize the world's sex education information. That is a deliberate paraphrase of Google's original mission statement, which was organize the world's information, because they're not. The algorithm is biased. And I want to bring all of this together to be the Google of sex education, to make the algorithm change when people see at a glance how brilliant, informative, educational, healthy, and non-threatening all this is.
This is. Now, in order to do all of this, you need funding, clearly.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Back in the day, my first career was investment banking. So I understand how imperative funding is. But what I find to be it just blows my mind is the challenges that you personally have around this. I mean, given your background, given what you've achieved thus far, given how large the market size is, so why do you believe it is so hard to raise money in this space for you?
Sure. So this is and always has been my challenge, Paul. I know that my investors are out there, and there are a ton of them, okay? And there are a ton of them in every country in the world, by the way. They are impossible to find by conventional means because they all have one thing in common. Your willingness to fund Make Love Not Porn is entirely a function of your personal sexual journey. It's a function of your personal lens on sex and sexuality that's been shaped by your own experience of it. And obviously, I have no way to research and target for that.
Interesting.
Especially as sex is the one area where you cannot tell from the outside what anybody thinks on the inside. The people who look like they would totally get it don't. The people who look like complete prudes do. And so my strategy has to be, I put what I'm doing out there all the time, across all my socials, do all the media interviews I'm asked to, because I have to make synaptic connections happen that will attract those investors to me. This is a long, slow, painful, and highly inefficient process. It does regularly work, but it's very slow going. Because, what I find astonishing is, I've been a tech entrepreneur for many years. I have a lot of friends in Silicon Valley. And yet, the VCs and angel investors whom I know are hosting and participating in sex parties, hitting the orgy tent at Burning Man, proud to proclaim themselves polyamorous, they will not invest in anything to do with sex. Sex more than any other area proves the truth about saying, we do not see things as they are, we see things as we are. And so I have to find my kind of investor. And my kind of investor is very hard to find when, as I say, you can't research and target in the usual way.
But why would that investor not invest? Someone who seems to be so liberal in their, with the sex that they have, why would they not invest?
Do you know, that takes us right back to the beginning of this conversation, which is the social dynamic that I call fear of what other people think. And again, that operates around sex, unlike any other area. That's a battle I've fought for the past 15 years.
Yeah, I see it. I see you fighting that, and I think that's why I think it is brilliant that you went the crowdfunding source, and hopefully you continuing to be on these platforms will definitely help the cause. So I tell you what, one question that I ask everyone, and I cannot wait to hear your answer to this, is that you've had some incredible conversations, clearly, all throughout your life, right? When you think back to the most profound conversation, who was it with, and what did you talk about?
Oh my God, that's a real toughie.
Yes.
Paul. Gosh, honestly, I would really say, I can't home in on just one.
Okay.
But I will honestly say that they are the conversations that I've had to do with Make Love Not Porn and people's response to it. And I say that, by the way, Paul, because as I said earlier, all of this happened by accident. As the saying goes, the path appeared. I did not choose this path. It's a bloody challenging one to be on. It chose me, but now it is my path. But I say that because, first of all, people have opened up to me around Make Love Not Porn in a way that they have never ever spoken to anybody else about how profound what they've dealt with around their sexuality has been. When people find that I'm somebody who is just completely normally going, I know this is going on, I'm changing it, the floodgates open.
Yes.
And I hear things people have never told anybody in their entire lives before. And I feel very privileged. I always say lightheartedly, but I mean it, that when we achieve our mission at Make Love Not Porn, one side benefit will be that we will see productivity shoot up in offices worldwide. And so I'm sorry I can't pin that down to just one conversation, but the conversations I've had where people have shared with me exactly what Make Love Not Porn is helping them with, what I'm tackling, have been the most profound of my entire life.
Yeah, I believe it. Cindy, what I truly appreciate about you is that I do think that you're bold, fearless, unapologetic. I do think that your brand, you are your brand, right? I do think that is your brand. But you are, for me personally, you're very aspirational.
Oh, thank you.
Very much so. And I believe that what you are building is not only helping the world, but will help to change the world. So continue to do what you do. And thank you so much.
I enormously appreciate that, Paul, and I've really, really enjoyed this conversation. So thank you very much for giving me the opportunity to talk to you.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you.
Wow, what a unique and inspiring episode. And as always, here are my top takeaways. Number 1, authenticity and independence are the keys to owning your future and finding true happiness. Now, Cindy emphasizes that fear of what others think is the most paralyzing force in life and work. By rejecting societal pressures, staying self-aware, and living in alignment with your values, you unlock the freedom to live and work authentically, which she calls the true secret to happiness. The next takeaway, the value of self-defined happiness lies in living a life aligned with your own values, not societal expectations. Now, Cindy challenges us to ask this question: what would really make me happy? Brutally and honestly. She believes that if more people did this, they'd realize that they don't truly want what the world tells them to want, and instead pursue what genuinely fulfills them. And the next one, and I love this, is expanding the concept of what family means by embracing the idea of a chosen family. These are relationships built outside the traditional structures that are just as valid and meaningful. It was moving to hear Cindy say the following: I cannot wait to die alone, but also because actually, I'm not going to die alone. I have amazing friends in a chosen family that is absolutely as valid, as loving, as wonderful, as life-affirming as any nuclear family. So what's the lesson? The lesson is that family isn't defined by bloodlines, but by the love and support and connection we intentionally cultivate with those who truly enrich our lives. I need to come clean and tell you about the love affair I've been having these last 2 years. But before you start thinking that I'm disloyal, don't worry, my wife knows everything. Because even Jill can't ignore how truly, madly, deeply in love I am with the new show sponsor, Huel. Hand on my heart, I carry up to 3 Huels with me every day. Some might even call me a hardcore Huel drinker. And they'd be right, I am. My days start early, so drinking my ready-to-drink Black Edition Vanilla is such a convenient way for me to fuel my body with great nutrition. But the part I love most is Huel is a complete meal packed with 35 grams of protein plus 26 vitamins and minerals to help me thrive. So whether I'm traveling, on set, or recording, I know Huel will keep me feeling good. If you're tempted to have a love affair of your own, visit Huel.com and use code Paul for 15% off your next order. That's HUEL.com.